So again, really appreciative that everyone is here. Again, this is going to be a little casual conversation about leadership and culture. The concept is culture eats everything for breakfast. Got that from Wally. So let's clap up for Wally for having a great mantra about culture. We'll get to him in a second, but I want to get everyone on the panel to kind of introduce themselves. I was going to do it, but I was like, I'm not going to get in trouble. And I would love for y'all to introduce yourself briefly within 60 seconds. Start now. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Oh, you starting down here?
Yes.
Oh,
Ladies
okay.
first.
All right. Hello, everybody. I am Rainey Mitchell-Young. I am Jackson's mom. I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old boy, but this panel is about me as a player, as a coach, D1 coach, high school coach, club coach, and now as a parent. I'm from Southern California, and this is exciting, and thank you, Jerome, for just pointing out my talents and my accomplishments of my athletic career and where I've come from and just where I've been. You know, what you're providing here in this gym is what I grew up in, a competitive environment that really instills the discipline, the fundamentals of the game, and not just basketball. It's just sports, right? You can take away a lot of what you are teaching and apply it to life, and that resonates with me so hard.
Awesome.
So thank you for providing that.
Of course.
I'm a big-time basketball player. I grew up playing basketball, but then eventually my junior year, I figured I couldn't play behind 6'4" anymore, my sister. So I switched over to volleyball, and then from there I found the love. I grew faster, I grew stronger, and I played college volleyball at Long Beach State and opened up so many opportunities and fell in love with coaching immediately. And eventually went from Cal State Fullerton to various high schools to San Francisco State to come up here in the Bay Area, coaching at Sacred Heart Cathedral for 7 years, Tam High School, coaching programs up in Marin, and I think I've put over 100 girls in college.
Oh wow, let's clap. That's a pretty awesome accomplishment. Well, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Next up.
Great.
Please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Layla Sturdy. I am a parent of a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, Theo in the back, and an 8-year-old. I think I'm also on this panel partially because I played D1 basketball. So my parents were immigrants. I found basketball myself. My mom was 5'4", and she was like, "What? Do you want to play?" And I first played on a boys team because there were no girls teams for many years in my town. I grew up outside of Miami. And was lucky enough to have teammates and coaches that totally changed my life. And I had some amazing experiences playing basketball growing up. My coach, who coached at Harvard for 35 years, is still like a second parent to me. And I just really deeply believe in the power and the potential of sports and teams to change people's lives. So I run a venture capital fund now, so a fund called Capital G. We invest in growth stage technology companies. So I spend a lot of my day thinking about teams and where do we want to invest capital, what are the ideas, but most importantly, what are the cultures and people that we want to back in the world. And one of my favorite things is to also be a leader inside of an organization like Capital G. And they get sick of how many times I bring basketball references into everything that we do. And I also feel very fortunate. My kids, I'm happy that they love basketball. Is not anything that my wife and I wanted to push on them. We wanted to help them find that love of basketball or anything they found themselves. But what mattered to me was the organization and the people that they're playing with. So I was lucky enough to meet Pete and Jerome, and we're so happy to be a part of this. And thanks for having me on the panel today.
Of course, awesome. Thank you, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I feel like all the good stuff has already been said, so it's tough to follow. Hello, everyone. I think I know a lot of you in this room already, but for those that I haven't met, Janae Dykes, former Don, like Coach Gums, played right there on that hardwood for many years. Now navigating the business world, and I really think it's all a credit to relationships, and I am so thankful for the relationship that this gentleman right here and I have, because his relationship is what reminded me that it's so much further than the game of ball. It's so much further than the sports that our children are going to play. I'm also an EMA parent. I have a 12-year-old that is now a part of the program. And I say is now because his whole life he played baseball. And the moment he said, Mom, I want to play basketball, not only did I say, thank goodness, but I said, you're only going to one place, and that's Empower Me Academy. And it's not because of basketball, but it's because of relationships. The relationships have helped me navigate to say goodbye to the game that I played at the D1 level, played at the professional level, but really was excited to take the things that I learned from those relationships to allow me to navigate the business world the way that I do. Now I run a real estate business and also frontline fundraise for Division I NIL funds that I know we will dive into and talk all about. But the game is so different now, but the relationships are still incredibly special and pushing children to the next level, have pushed all of us to the next level. And I'm excited to share that I want to be back a part of coaching here at EMA like I once was doing before, simply because I want to make sure that so many more people like us that were once playing the game at the young age can lean on our relationships and guide them through life like they're getting ready to do after EMA. I'm happy to be here. I'm thankful for your guidance and for inviting me alongside these incredible people.
Awesome. Well, just to add value to what you said, you're like my little sister, and you know how much I love you, so thank you for sharing that. And to now you, Wally.
Well, I feel not worthy after those three wonderful
That's why I put you there.
introductions.
Yeah.
My goodness. Wally Haas, good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here, I think. I didn't have any children go through EMA, but I did join Jerome's board this past year. In a past life, my family owned the Oakland A's for 15 years. And thank you, Jackson. And it was a life-changing experience for me. And out of that, and it became the genesis of a nonprofit once we sold the A's, which I helped found, called Coaching Corps, which was all about connecting kids from under-resourced communities with volunteer college coaches who became their coach mentors so that more kids could have the opportunity to learn life lessons through sports. And it was through a mutual friend that we got connected, Coach and I, and I've joined EMA's board last year. Hopefully can help just because I'm old and I've done this for a long time and I'm enjoying it. I did play basketball in high school, but it wasn't noteworthy. You know, you can't jump really high. It makes it more challenging, but I love sports and I'm happy to be here today.
Yes. Thank you, Wally. Thank you all for being here. Thank all of you in the chairs for being here. And you know, as I'm listening to all of you talk as we get into this, it's really important to understand that we're all here because of relationship. You know, I grew up in the Caribbean. I'm not going to get into who I am and why I'm here, but the one thing my mom taught me was relationships is the most important thing you nurture and cultivate. And we're all here because we care about that, and I'm really happy that we're spending time together. All right, we ready for the fun stuff?
Yeah.
All right, so the first question I'm going to ask to everyone, because you're going to have individual questions, but this is more of a general. Why are you looking at me?
I just smiled. All right, I won't
You know, I
smile.
grew up with 6 girls. I know what that looks like. So I promise I'm not going to blindside you with any
I got my
questions.
questions ready. I come prepared.
All right, so when you all think about the best team or environment or culture you've been a part of, what was the one behavior or standard that made it different? Wally?
Oh, I think accountability, personal accountability, has a lot to do with it. You know, I just was reading about Baker Mayfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they've been in a losing streak, and they're still tied for first, but they've been losing. And he was into a team meeting, and he immediately says, "It's on me." No one was pointing fingers, and I think that builds trust, and trust builds chemistry. So that would be the way I'd answer that.
Now, I want to add value to that because we've talked about this. Whenever there's a loss or a win, primarily a loss, we always pay attention to what the coach says first. And the best coaches are the ones that say, it's on me. So I appreciate you saying accountability. Z?
Always tough to follow this guy. But, you know, similarly, I think when I think of 2 words to that point, it's togetherness and understanding. I think about the difference between when I arrived at USF my freshman year, we only won 5 ball games. And I was really questioning just about everything in that moment. And the difference when I finished and left here and why we won, which is something that no one in this city thought that the team could do, by the way, was because we were together and because we had an understanding that every day we show up, we are going to kill each other on the court. And you need to understand that we're doing that because we're making each other better. And we must stay together every step of the way that we do that. There was no cattiness. There was no, when I leave the room, my name is taken care of in that room, even if I'm not there. We work together. If a team is not together, it's really tough to go far. And if a team doesn't understand why you're going to be pushed to your highest capabilities, it is really tough to go far. So those two really,
It's powerful.
really help.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's a great question because when you play for long enough, you play in a lot of bad teams and bad cultures too. So I was running through that and thinking of the contrast. But what comes up for me is a culture of care. And I think it starts with the leadership, the adults in the room, the coaches. I mean, like I mentioned, I had a college coach that was, I was lucky enough that she really instilled that in all of us. We care about you as a human and a person and a player, and held the standard for us with our teammates of caring about our teammates. And I think that filters through to like caring about something beyond yourself, and caring about winning, caring about the traditions and representing the jersey and all that. So, and it just makes it so much more meaningful because the more that you care, like every level, your heart is just growing, and it becomes about much more than basketball.
That's amazing. A quote that connects with what you just said: players don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah, totally.
That's powerful. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You spoke on care and accountability and all that stuff.
Defense.
Defense. You're taking it off my card. Like,
Yeah,
stop.
sorry.
You're reading my
Yeah, I'm
notes.
sorry, I'm reading your notes.
Stop it. I remember coaching years ago at Sacred Heart Cathedral, and I remember coaching the freshmen, and I was like, God, these kids are so raw. They're missing something. And I came up with an acronym, and it was DAT, D-A-T, Discipline, Accountability, Trust. So that when they walked in the gym doors, right, there's like an invisible laser that they walk in, all their problems were gone, and we're going to create a space of safety, of you can fail, you can succeed, your growth, all that stuff in the gym. And they would walk in, I'd be like, you got that? You got that today? You bring in all of that discipline, accountability, trust. And they can check each other, be like, hey, is your shirt tucked in? Discipline, right? Accountability, you're not showing up. Hey, that's your ball. You should go for your ball. You should be on your play, know your rules, and then trust the process. Are we trusting what the coach is saying? Are we trusting what our teammates are doing? So I look back on just as a coach and as a player, like, do we have self-accountability? Are we all disciplined enough to do that? And it all kind of adds up. Like discipline plus accountability equals a little bit of trust. So you got that? If you know you got that, then we rolling, we winning, we're moving up, we're moving forward.
Awesome. Wow, that was So, I know you're not a part of the panel, but you're here, and every time you're here, I got to talk about you. So Nisha is like our #1 energy giver ever in the history of EMA. So whenever you feel free, you make sure we raise the energy because you're the standard, okay? All right. So, and just so y'all know, we're going to get to the point where we're going to have the audience ask questions. So I just want to make sure the panelists get their time. So Wally.
Yes, sir.
What's a common leadership mistake you've observed that, undermines teams' culture, even among highly skilled and talented groups?
I think it's ego. I think that me gets in the way of we is the one that, it's one thing to lead with confidence and positivity, but also with humility, I think. And sometimes when ego, I think of it when a team is an underdog but they play more like a team, those are the ones who usually can beat the team that is supposed to be individually better.
Yep.
Right.
So we over me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, great answer. Zane, Coach Z, as a point guard, what was the one behavior that immediately elevated the team's culture? And you can't say the same thing you just said.
I'll tell you this. One thing that I did as a point guard that genuinely elevated our culture was I made sure that there wasn't one teammate that felt that I was pouring into them less than the other. Right? Like when you're leading a team, not just the 4 players you're playing with on the court at that moment. Those 12 players on the roster need to feel like they are being poured into by their leaders, coaches, point guards. They need to feel like they matter and they have a reason to be there just as much as the starting shooting guard and your starting forward, even if they're not getting a single minute out there. Because them playing defense on you, going at it against you time and time again is the reason that you were able to get better, to be able to perform and play the minutes that you played on the court to get you that championship. And I think as a point guard, what I like to focus into the most was just everyone else, right? As long as I'm dialed in with every single one of my teammates, they are going to trust in me and know that I can guide them and lead them. And it looks like doing what I always did as a point guard. I was the first one in the gym and always the last one to leave, and always was making sure every one of my teammates heard from me, how are you today? Are you ready to go? And how are you feeling? How was your day today? It's not just about ball. How are we before we go and attack this big goal that we have ahead of us that the whole city doesn't think we can accomplish? How are we doing first?
Okay. Hey, that's you remind. Yeah, she remind. Yeah, we'll move on. All right. Obviously, I got a lot of love for Nisha. I want to make sure I don't give her too much attention because she's awesome and she's not a part of the panel. Next time, maybe next year. We might have a student one. Yeah. Okay, great. All right, Layla, as a captain, right? Hold on. What standard did you feel most responsible for upholding?
I think the standard of unity, really everyone being in the boat. I think it's very similar to what you were saying. And all the great teams I've played in, again, basketball or other entities, there's not a lot of interference in the field. There is directness, there's shared values, there's accountability, and those are the teams that perform best. And I think as a captain, your job is to look up and sort of make sure everyone's with you. And that takes a lot of work. You got freshmen coming in, they don't know which way is the gym, let alone how the standard of play as you go up level and level. I think it's the same, and again, now I've been out for almost 30 years, so I think of teams like when we onboard, now as a leader, as a CEO, when we onboard people onto my team, we have a very structured process, because it's like, you got to get them trained, they have a buddy, they have to feel part of the culture and know what we're about and know what the expectations are. And I learned that from being a captain, that you can't just set high goals and expect everyone to do it. You really have to get buy-in that everyone is together in reaching those goals, or you won't do anything.
What an amazing answer. And again, it's about everyone up here, but do you remember when we first met?
I do remember when we first met.
And it was like, this is my people.
Yes.
And it's because of what you just said.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. The thing that I love most about my experiences is that I was picked as a captain for all my teams. And I think that's the thing that we have in common. And I love that you share that. Yeah. So we won't talk about us too much. All right. We're good?
Yeah.
Remy, as a former D1 coach, when evaluating athletes, what behavior immediately signaled they're a good fit?
Well, let's make sure let's balance out what athlete we're looking at, right? Because you can look at our kids, and we're all middle school kids. We're not looking at their behavior. We're just looking at that recruitable athlete age. And we would, as a staff, we would sit down and discuss, okay, well, what do we need in this position? Okay, let's find that position. And we'd go to these tournaments and we would watch kids, not just on the court, but off the court. How is your child behaving in a manner where are they prepared? And you look at behavior. Is it behavior nonverbal and then verbal behavior? Are they supporting their teammates when they didn't make the shot, or when a shot was missed, or when this game isn't going their way? We're looking at their body language and a bunch of stuff. Are they supporting their teammates? Are they prepared? Is mom and dad getting their water because they forgot their water? You know, even in warm-ups, where they're ahead of time, watching your child, how they take the court, how they step on the court before their game, and do they have earbuds in? And you know, it's the times now where kids want to listen to their hype music, but in that moment, could coach be giving some in-game feedback, or just going over strategy and, you know, opponent tactics or tendencies? And so we look at just like, coaches get there. I remember it was my job to get there before everybody else got there, before parents got there. I'm sitting in the parking lot, arriving before everybody got there, watching your kids walk in, how they took the court, how they warmed up, and then post warm up, when your players walking off the court, are they like, Mom, Dad, I need this? Or they're just like, I'm gonna go get it done myself. Yeah. I'm very self-efficient to do it. So a lot of behavior on and off the court.
Got it. Awesome. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Back to you, Z. And you mentioned this earlier, right? In today's NIL environment, what does leadership requires that talent alone can't provide?
That's a great question. I think leadership requires a level of connection today like never before. As a coach, if you are not able to connect with your players to the point where if we win or lose 20 ball games, you're with me because you believe in me and I believe in you, you're gonna have a really tough time. And when you think about leadership from a player perspective in today's times, you have to be able to navigate, first off, ego. Don't have one. Leave it out. Leave it out. Because you're gonna have to be able to navigate your teammates looking at you and knowing that you're getting thousands and sometimes millions more than them, and they still have to believe and trust you. So we've got coaches that every year, if they aren't good at that connection piece, are getting a whole new roster. And we've got teammates that are all making more money than they've ever made before, but all at different levels. So imagine the amounts of chaos that can be mixed within if we don't have leaders that can genuinely connect and again understand in a whole new way, at a whole new level. I mean, because now that is basketball today at the college level. I am sitting across from someone and they are telling me I want to give you 7 figures so that my team can win. It's as simple as that. They want to pay to win. And that really hinders this level of camaraderie with sports today. So leaders have to be better leaders than they've ever been before, because now they've got to do connecting with millions of dollars involved. And unfortunately, when money gets involved, as we all know in this room, that isn't always a great thing. So it's a whole new skill. Leaders that thought they were leaders in college hoops 5 years ago are not leaders today because they cannot handle this level of business in the game.
Got it. Wow. That was awesome. I just learned a lot. Thank you. So we saved this question for last. So Wally, why did your family decide to buy the A's, and how important was culture?
My father was not looking to buy a sports team. In fact, for a successful businessman, it wasn't a box he was looking to check on his resume. And so, in fact, when he was a multi-generation San Franciscan, and he was even a Giants fan. And his first reaction when he was asked, will you buy this team? he turned it down. His mistake was sharing this over an adult beverage with his son, me, and my brother-in-law the next night. And we did everything we could to convince him to do it. But at the end of the day, how he could rationalize doing it more than anything was that, and this is going to date me because it was like 45 years ago, the Oakland Raiders had just left for Los Angeles. And he was concerned that if the A's left Oakland, that for this distressed community, it would be a severe blow. And he cared deeply about all of the Bay Area and its residents and their quality of life. So it was unusual, but it was that his values, his care for the community, his standards was really what motivated our culture. And he wanted the A's to be a community asset, and he felt the best way for them to be that was to have as our North Star to win a world championship. Now you would think every owner of every professional sports team should have that as their goal.
We want to hear that.
Give it to us.
That's why they're sitting there.
You have really important views, I think, on stewardship.
Well, that's it, and that's the right,
responsibility.
and that is the right word, Jackson. It's not. We came into it believing we're technically owners, but we tried to be stewards of what we thought was a community trust, and you know, it was. I digress. I'll never forget the first day that we went into the office, and I was really concerned about the employees that we were going to inherit. And so the first employee I thought I'd see was the receptionist. Well, the receptionist was a cardboard sign that said dial 0 for assistance. We literally inherited 4 staff members for a professional sports team. And so it was like at the end of the day, and the ticket department was a metal cabinet with 81 drawers, because there are 81 games with 44,000 hard tickets in each one. The phone system was one of those where you plug in, you know, and it was wild. And I suddenly, at the end of the day, felt like a dog must feel like it chases a car all its life and then finally catches it. Now what do we do? But the good news was the slate was clean. I mean, we could literally, and so we tried to hire people who would strive for excellence. We cared deeply about the community. And we learned a lot. We made some mistakes, but our goal was we had the North Star, and so it really helped guide our culture. And it was truly my dad who set that.
And that's when you came up with culture eats everything for breakfast?
Something like that. I don't think that was not mine, as you know.
Well, yes, but I want to share and add value to that. That was the story throughout all our conversations, is when we connected, because when I found out the type of values that you were brought up under, that's when we knew we had similar mindset. Awesome. Thank you all for the questions. We're going to turn to the audience because I could see. Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. We had 2 more panelists that were supposed to join. Tala, who was one of the first supporters of EMA. Her father didn't make it today, passed. So her and her son, who got drafted in the MLB, who was one of the first students, they couldn't make it. But she still took time to write an unbelievable note, and the wonderful Annette is going to read it.
Wow.
No, I'm going to stand right here. Yeah, I don't know how this works.
Just speaking to it.
I just hold it? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Annette Margolis, but right now I am channeling Tala, and then I will speak Lucas's words as well. So, Tala, thank you, Pete, Annette, and Jerome for including both Lucas and myself on this panel. Unfortunately, due to a family emergency, we are unable to be with you all tonight. However, Lucas and I both felt it was incredibly important to share just a few thoughts. During this time, it seems even more important to discuss family and how family plays a large role in sports. For me, Tala, family culture and finding a program that aligns with our values was very important. From the very beginning of Lucas's career, we made sure that it did not primarily revolve around chasing accolades. I remember long ago showing Lucas his high ranking amongst his peers according to just a random baseball publication. And Lucas's first response was, "Those things don't matter." In that moment, I was brought back to reality and realized he was right. I was also proud that he realized that what he wanted to accomplish went beyond high school player rankings. He knew early on it truly was about the work he put in on a daily basis. He always had the bigger picture in mind. And in a way, the foundation of EMA helped build this foresight. It was those early stop and learns where I felt Jerome would blow his whistle every 30 seconds. Lucas started to he started to lean into the importance of learning a game rather than just winning a tournament. In a way, it slowed the game down for him to a pace that was absorbable and where the learning would truly start. For a game like baseball, everyone assumes that it is a slow game, but it is incredibly fast where players have to make decisions in fractions of seconds. He developed a love of learning of the game and slowing it to a pace where he could understand it, and he learned that at EMA. In today's fast-paced world where winning is deemed as a priority, it's rare that programs want to truly slow down and teach a game. We are both thankful that Jerome and EMA entered into our lives at a very important foundational time in Lucas's life. And this is Lucas. EMA taught me the importance of doing things the right way above anything else, whether that was showing up on time, finishing a drill, or supporting your teammates. This is something I remember Coach Gums very clearly valuing. I worked with EMA back when it was just a small group working from gym to gym throughout the week. We had a wide range of backgrounds and talent. However, Coach Gums put a lot of pressure on us, not just on pure execution, but how we went about things. Our body language, our effort, our attitude, and our energy. These things seem so small to you as a kid, and the vision may not be clear. But as I got older, I realized those weren't just basketball lessons, but life lessons. They didn't just translate into baseball for me. They translated into different aspects of my life. Student, friend, as a brother, and into the rest of my life. One thing that remains with me is that practice should be harder than games. When you speed things up in practice, things slow down in the actual game. The mental and physical strain of those practices that seemed so long ago prepared me for life. I am very grateful for this mindset EMA shaped for me. It has prepared me not just for baseball, but also life, which I will just add is the mission of EMA.
Yeah, that was, for them to take time to write that was, yeah, and I would have probably butchered it, so thank you on that. All right, so I know people are, we're over time, so that's on me. I take full accountability. But I want to open this up for anyone that want to ask questions, even if it's about the A's. Anne?
I'll ask you questions. I have to leave in a second. I feel like Star Trek. I was thinking about, I didn't grow up playing basketball. It's my son Bobby who just loved basketball, and I learned about it over time. But I think about, how do you all think about adjusting your leadership style and your approach to teamwork on different types of teams? So I look at, like, basketball is a high scoring sport, and sometimes you have like a star who scores a lot. I grew up playing soccer, low scoring sport, a lot more players, and it's about every player on the field contributing to each shot. And then I was a fan of hockey, same thing, of like low scoring. I wonder how you approach different teams with your style.
Anybody wants to go first? I go last.
I mean, I would say, 25 years has taught me a lot, and I'm coaching my son's 4th grade basketball team. And within our first meeting, what we did was we set SMART goals. Yeah. We went and we talked about what do we want as a team, and let them come up with the answers instead of me telling them what they should believe. And it was just finding the balance of what they said and what they thought of how the team might go and how the season might go. As, all right, now as a coach, I can take the lead from them and their expectations are met instead of me putting my expectations on them and them not meeting my expectations. So I feel like it all depends on age. It all depends on, sometimes I always love coaching the misfits. It doesn't look like a team, and we get out there and we just dominate because we have the skills, we have the knowledge, we have the IQ of the game, and everybody leads. There's no, yes, there may be somebody that's more of a point scorer and the leader of the numbers of the total of the game and who's averaging more points, but the supporting cast to me is always more important. How they're uplifted, how they're encouraged to, hey, I need you to score more. Let's see what happens if you score more. And they're like, all right, coach, give me the challenge. So it's always just, as a coach, empowering the non-leaders to lead, or the non-scorers to be the ones to step up, and encouraging and giving them confidence to be the ones to help out.
Anybody else wants to go?
I mean, the one thing I would say, I like your question because I think when I look back on all the teams I've played on, I think of my kids, like a variety of experiences, whether it's across sports or across role. Like I think, you know, when you play in a rec league team and you're the kids like the leading scorer early on, and then they play up with older kids or more experienced kids and they learn a different role. I think it's great for building empathy and building like really long-term leadership skills to kind of understand all these different positions. I look at kids or people that were like only the superstars, that's been their whole environment. I'm like, I'm not looking to hire someone who only has that experience, because it's just the resilience, the flexibility, the empathy are much harder to develop. And then across sports, I mean, basketball is just the best sport. So those other ones that you mentioned, you know, it's like you just sort of, we can all dabble, but then we come back to the truth. I don't know what happened with you.
Volleyball is great.
I get the six-score thing. Okay, sorry.
How many state championships did you win in basketball?
I have one.
Okay.
Well, hold on. Let's keep it.
No, we're gonna. Okay, we said we'd box out on the panel, but
I still got in these.
No, but we're not going back and forth. No, because we can pull out the balls and we can go outside. All right, Z, did you want to add value to it?
Yeah, I think, and I might be a different opinion to this great question. I think it's vital as leaders, you remain the same leader. You're going to play a different sport. You're going to coach a team that is going to win a national championship, and you're going to coach a team that is only going to win 5 ball games. I've been a part of not the national champion side, but the 5 ball game side, and it was my head coach that remained the same. And I think as a leader, it's important that you don't want more for your players than they want for themselves, but you believe in them more than they believe in themselves. They're going to tell you, right, like, this is where I want to go. Right? However, it needs to be embedded in them that they know that you believe in them more than they believe in themselves, because you're going to have kids that are playing all different sports, high-performing teams, low-performing teams, but as long as they know that their leader believes in them and they can tell their leader, this is where I want to go and you believe in me to get me there, I think that is so important, because believe it or not, a lot of leaders, even at the D1 level, they all think they're winning the championship. They all think they're going far, but they need to remain the same as long as that same is a good level of leadership.
Wally?
You know, it made me think of a different piece of this. I was just thinking in baseball, some of the best head coaches or managers were not the best players. They were, in fact, almost none of them were. And my the first manager of the A's that I was fortunate enough to get to know was a guy named Billy Martin, who grew up in the mean streets of Berkeley and was this little guy, but just had, he was so cerebral, and he would just outwork anybody as a player, and his passion, he made it so miserable for the players when they lost. Yeah. But it was, I just find it, I don't know why I thought of that, Ann, but that's what made me think of, you know, it's fascinating, because I'm just fascinated by coaches, because I think so highly of them. So
great answers, amazing question. You know, I'll take a crack at it. You know, I think, and Steve Kerr is one of my distant idols, and he said something in an interview, and I believe it to be true. as a leader, as a coach, the first thing you implement is your values. The first thing. We're a team. We help each other up. We pass to the open guy. Yes, there will always be a player that's more talented, more skilled. But if you have this culture where if a lesser player is open, you're passing it to them, right? So I think as a coach, as a parent, as a teacher, as anyone that's in leadership roles, you gotta set the foundation and set the law, and it has to be your values. And they have to be non-negotiable. I don't care how much you score, you have to pass it to the open person. And once you instill that in the beginning, it becomes easier. And what I find is that coaches try to put in their offense, their defense, that's that word, and then they start trying to, reel it back and try to add the values, and it's too late. From day one, you instill the values, and then that is how you remain the same leader, because regardless of the leadership, it's the culture that eats everything for breakfast.
That's right.
All right, great question, and I know you got to go. Thank you so much. Yes?
Yeah. Okay. So this next year, I'm going to be going into like a very new environment. I'm going to be joining, I'm going to be a freshman, playing in college. And so, thank you. But I was wondering, just cause I've been on, obviously I was the youngest on varsity my freshman year, but this is the first time where I'm going into an environment where the competition is taking such a jump. And even just like the values themselves. But I just wanted to know, like, what do you think are the biggest things that'll not only separate you, but really help you going in as like the youngest player in that new environment?
We'll go this and this and this. We'll go this way. I'll go first. Unless you want to ask someone specifically.
I thought it was for
okay. Just making sure, because you were looking. I'm just making sure.
No, I try to pan my eyes.
That's good. That's good public speaking. I think there's so many variables that we could touch on, but I think I can only talk about my experience and probably Jaden's. I think when you go into an environment that's new to you, you pay attention first, right? You observe, right? You observe what the coach's standard is. You observe what the captain's standards is. Because too often you're coming into a college and you're probably the best player, and you're like, I want to prove that I was good in high school, versus just saying, where do I need to fit in to add value to this team that's already existed before I got there? So I think just going in, showing them your values, working hard, because you're the Kobe Bryant of the program, so you're going to impress everyone, but just pay attention, right? Observe, because your leadership will be a great model without even talking. And I think you just observe, pay attention, and then just adapt. But you're gonna be fine, because years ago you didn't think you would play in college, and here you are. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I'll pass. I'll pass to the athletes and the coaches.
Well, the first thing I want to tell you is you belong there. I think, tell yourself that, because it's really hard to believe that as a little freshman going into a new place, a new space, not knowing what to expect. You belong there. You're going to believe that you belong there, and you're also going to believe and tell yourself that you can step into that gym and be a captain your freshman year. And I know you're probably thinking, what? That's great. No, go to that experience and tell yourself these things, because Coach Gums and this environment has already prepared you for what you're getting ready to enter. Believe it or not, you've already been training like a college athlete for many years. So let all those nerves go, because I know you have some. And remind yourself that you belong there. I don't even have to tell you how to show up, because you already know how to show up. That's the beauty of EMA. You're prepared. So from a fellow EMA student to another fellow EMA student, the best thing that I can tell you, show up to that gymnasium and show up to college like you belong there, because you do, and you will succeed.
The thing I would add, I can already tell you already have, which is be an energy giver, and its attitude, and just show up. Your older teammates, your coach, if they just see that they leave interactions with you with their energy up, and it's because of the attitude you brought, the effort, your openness, understanding, and I can already tell you have it. So I would also plus one that, yeah, be yourself.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to develop a relationship with your coach. Don't be afraid to go to their office hours. Go into their office. Hey, coach, let's come up with a plan for me over the season, over the next week. Set goals. Your SMART goals are as a freshman. What do you want from me? You saw my game as a senior in high school. Now, how do I take it to the freshman level? Okay, what's next for me in my sophomore year? I would love it when players would come in between classes and just come and sit and talk. Relate to us as we're all humans, right? Just come and have that conversation, and then I know like where your day is, how your day's going. So then when we get in the gym, I have just a little like a one-up on everybody else because you came in and took the time out to sit with us and to just engage as humans. So bug the crap out of your coaches. Be in their office, not just your coaches, your trainers, all of the support staff, your teachers, your professors, right? Your student first, right? Your professor should know who you are by name because you're like, hey, I'm on the women's basketball team and this is my name and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, who is this freshman coming in here just already ready to learn, ready to give, ready to just engage. So don't be afraid to get into your coach's office and say and have a conversation.
Yeah, I should have never answered that question. Yes. These are all better. Yeah, you should have told me you were gonna pass. I would have passed with you. Anyone else? Gabby, no? I know Pete was gonna ask. Go ahead, Pete.
So I think almost all of us, except for Nisha, are parents here. Our parents here, and there's lots of talk in youth sports today about parents being a huge part of the problem. I'm curious what you all think about how does a parent show up in a way that's additive, helpful to a team, to their own child's experience, etc.
Pete, that was my question. Jerome didn't ask me.
No, but I am so sorry. I just remembered. Yes, that's the question. That's why you're going to answer.
That's why I'm here, Pete. I am a player, coach, parent, and I think it is, I wrote it down. I go, it is a reality check every car ride before and after practice on the way to games to not give all my knowledge, all my IQ, everything I know about the game. And you're like, do this, do that, do this, do that. This is what you're doing wrong. You should be doing this. You should be doing this to the ball. And I just have to go, do you need a snack? Do you need some water? And it is so hard to balance that. I know all my knowledge. I can't dump on them. I can't give them everything because their learning capacity is still a little funnel. They're only funneling in so much knowledge, and you don't want to overweigh them or burden them with just, God, my mom is on me, and I have to go. Okay, I'm not coach anymore. I just have to be mom, and really let them see me as, am I on the sidelines yelling at my kid while the coach is yelling at my kid and the game is asking so much of my kid that I can just be, way to get on the floor, way to rebound, nice job. And then they are like, God, my mom was really like fired up about it. And they just see the support and the uplifting without the strategy. So many times I would see parents giving their kids that strategy, the X's and O's of the game once a kid stepped off. Okay, you didn't do this. I tell my son all the time, like, shoot the ball more. When I should be asking him, do you need some more water? Do you want to go get a snack? It was fun to watch you play. Like, that should be the end all be all. When your kid walks off the court, it was so much fun to see you out there. Like, that's it. That's what we should be asking our kids. And it's hard to get off the coaching soapbox and just be the supportive parent and show up. Yeah.
Anyone else?
The kid just walked in, so I'll answer. I think people ask me this a lot because I actually don't coach my kid. He can clarify this. I don't coach him on X's and O's that much. And the reason is, with enough space from being a player, like, the greatest gift basketball gave me was experiencing love that deeply. Like, I loved the game of basketball. When I was a kid, and through college and through the years I played. And, that is what I hope for my kids and for other kids, whether it's basketball or other sports. And I don't experience that when I'm the one coaching them, or if I'm getting particular on things, or if it's So I would agree that I think parents are a lot of the problem. I think a lot of the rigmarole is taking, most of these kids are not going to play on a level much beyond their playing. So their core memories are going to be the game they're playing today. Like I'm sure all of us can remember, I remember so many games are still in this track. And, you know, it's how you felt in those games, who you were playing with, your team. Of course, it's wins and losses, but that's the beauty about sports. So that's how I feel.
Anyone else?
I will admit I'm still mastering the would you like some water or a snack? Like, I'm going to be raw and real and candid. As a parent, you expect your children to have the same level of love for things that you do at times, or I'll speak for myself. And my son and I, believe it or not, he started loving the game of ball a lot later than I did, and I was so confused, and I was like, what? You know? But here's what I'll say. I'm still mastering, would you like a water or would you like a snack?
It's hard.
Because the game did so much for me. Like, so much more for me. Forget basketball. But if it wasn't for basketball, I would not be here today. And so I'm constantly just trying to remind my son, if you love the game, the game will love you back. However, as parents, we ought to love what they love. And I'm working on that every single day, because as parents, you often feel like you have all the answers because we've done this before. We were just talking about this, right? You feel like you know where they should go and how they should operate and attack this thing we call life. And the best thing that we can do, still mastering it, not there yet, is to just be their parent, be their safe space, be their open arms after they airballed a shot and were brutally embarrassed and don't want to take the next open shot. Be there. Forget the game. Be there and make sure that you are present at their basketball games. They see you and say, Layla can say, there's Dad, support me. That's what it's about. And I'm really trying to master that right now, because I see on the days when I try and talk X's and O's, then it takes us a little bit longer to go back to him just telling openly, my son telling me, Mom, I want to talk about the X's and O's. Now, if he does that, we're talking about it. But the game, it's so important that we remember that we are parents above all, because at some point, the game is going to stop for them. But we're not stopping for them, right? So I'm still working on it. I don't know if I have the right answer yet.
But if they miss free throws, I make them run lines.
All right, yeah,
But
that's a
besides
non-negotiable.
that, you know?
That's a non-negotiable.
No, empty the dishwasher.
You want to touch it? So while he passed, so this is a very sensitive topic for me. So thank you, Pete, for opening up this Pandora box. I feel I was very lucky, or maybe unlucky, that my parents did not give a crap about sports. My mom and dad never saw me play, ever. Maybe on a highlight reel on ESPN when I was here. And that gave me the ability to compare how I was when I played versus my friends who had their parents yelling at them all the time. I was able to focus more. And when you've been able to play this game at a very high level, you understand how hard it is to stay locked in. And every time you hear a familiar voice, it breaks it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's when you see the Steph Currys, the Kobes, they're in their zone and no one can get them out of it. So when we think of sports, we got to think of habits. Right? I had a best friend who was playing at USF, and his dad was sitting in the corner, Ryan Russell, and his dad yelled at him every single possession. But what his dad didn't see is how distraught he was in the locker room, because his dad would be saying something and the coach is saying something else. So I saw this live, and as a coach, I told myself I will never allow any of my students to go through that, because it is very hard to play this game. And you cannot hear multiple voices. What I do love is when a child can look to the side and see their parent going. Like, that's all you need to do. You got it. You don't even have to say anything. Because people used to call me crazy when I was at Urban. I would sit in the mezzanine, and if Jaden looked at me, he had 100 push-ups. Couldn't look at me. I didn't say one word. And people are like, Coach, why are you not saying anything? Because I'm not playing. It's not about me. Jaden, we get in the car, what ice cream? I read an article, and it would say when your child get in the car, ask them what ice cream they want. And when he wanted to talk, he was like, Pops, what'd you see? Are you sure? Right? So when and there's nothing wrong with talking about the game, but let them be the one to cue it up, because that's when you have that connection. That's when you have that respect. But when I don't care who you are, when you constantly saying, they're going to tune you out. They will tune you out. And you want to have that relationship where you are the person they come to. And I think you set it up by just being their supporter. So that's why I'm super adamant about it, because I've seen it destroy people's careers. So, great. Yes.
This is an amazing panel, and I just want to be selfish and take advantage if I can. What do you think about, so I have a son who plays basketball, but now a younger daughter who started, and I've noticed she approaches things completely differently, and I think for her, one of her favorite times of, after practice or whatever, is just getting alone time with daddy to go eat without her brother around or anything. So I was just wondering if you have any advice on how to approach girls who they like the sport, but they respond, it seems to me, completely differently than than boys sometimes. So just how to encourage but still not get in the way, and how girls might be different than boys.
I guess I have the longest experience of coaching girls, but like I would always have my girls, when they wanted something, I would always say, let me know when you're ready for more reps. Let me know when you're ready, and I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. So just setting the table for them to know, hey, I'm sitting at the table. I'm ready to give you more food. You just got to come to the table. A communication of, hey, you want to go shoot some free throws? You want to go take a walk with me, and there's a park, you want to bring the ball, and maybe she's like, oh, okay. And she doesn't see it as we're setting up a private lesson. Now we're going to do something. I'm just going on a walk with my dad, and we have the ball in our hand, and we may go shoot free throws, but we're having a conversation about something else. So you can get your sports in, get your reps in, but just have that normal conversation with your daughter where it's not like X's and O's. I don't know if that helps. Mm-hmm. Girls are different. It's a different can of worms where you have to balance out pushing so much.
Anyone else? I want to add value to that real quick. One sec. Can I say? So I haven't coached girls as long as you, but I did coach varsity where you're at. I did grow up with 6 girls. Like one of my sisters was the first girl to play flag football. So I kind of haven't. I actually like coaching girls better, but I don't like to tell the boys that. I think when it comes to coaching girls, culture is way more important, right? I always admired volleyball games because no matter if they score or didn't get scored on, they always came in the middle. We're not coded like that. You get dunked on, yeah, I'm looking at you. What you doing? But women are just coded. It's more of a connectivity, I feel, and I think that's why when you coach women, the culture has to be really good, and you got to be careful putting girls in cultures like certain programs you've played in where the culture is not really about connectivity, right? That's what I saw growing up with a lot of girls. I credit the way I coach, being raised by an amazing mom and 6 sisters, and that's the difference in my opinion, right, between boys and girls. Boys, you can just have them throw out boxing gloves and they'll be fine. Girls, the culture has to be strong, and it has to be about team and we, more than boys. Boys can be successful being selfish. It's hard. Girls are not coded like, they want to be together, and I respect that.
Yeah, the one thing I would add, so I have an 8-year-old daughter, and my boys signed up for basketball and other sports, and a lot of their boyfriends would sign up, and it was just like an email went around. And she was in 2nd grade last year, and I sent an email around like, hey, let's get a Parks and Rec girls basketball. Crickets, no one. And I couldn't believe it. So I then went on a personal, I didn't put it in my intro, but you're also looking at the Eureka Valley Parks and Rec coach, 2nd grade. Yeah, like not by choice, but by desperate situation. So I went around to all the parents. I was like, what is going on? And they were like, Mom, my daughter doesn't really want to. I'm like, what? Like second grade and our girls basketball funnel is one kid? I'm not doing that. So I said, all right, I'm coaching, and our only metric is not points scored. It's not whether you can dribble. It is retention. It's that you want to play on the basketball team next year. I now have 5 on my basketball team. We are now Glen Park, Parks and Rec, Junior Warriors, 6-week season. My whole team's like, where are you going? I'm like, practice. It's 3 p.m. But they need a little bit more encouragement. Like the funnel isn't quite there, and I think they need to have really positive experiences when they're quite young. Because then they get to 6th grade and are more self-conscious. Oh, I didn't play basketball or I didn't do this. And it's like hard to get on the train. So I think those early years where it's just about fun, they're with friends and really positive environments is what I would love to see more of.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. You said it better. That's exactly what it is. Perfectly said.
So it's the pipeline for EMA that I'm trying to build
coming.
Here, but they're not particularly skilled, but they're good teammates.
No, that's what matters most. We like them raw. We're gonna talk about it another time, but the girls program is coming.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, the fact that y'all are still here, the fact that Ann went past her time, suggests that y'all enjoy this a little bit, right? And no, go ahead. You're the energy giver. Y'all are very similar, by the way. No, like very similar. But yeah, you were saying something. I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, I just said a lot.
Yeah.
That was all I had to say.
Awesome. And if you're happy, we're all happy. No, I really appreciate everyone being here. Sorry we went over the time, but I really enjoyed speaking with all of you and hearing y'all answers and perspectives. I mean, this is not the last time we're going to do this. We probably won't reach out to y'all again, but hopefully y'all can join and participate the next time in the audience. Thank everyone for coming. I'm surprised Jackson and Dave, they have questions.
Our boys already lost the game in overtime.
Oh, got it. Okay, but I really appreciate everyone being here. This is something special we want to continue to do because EMA is more about leadership than anything else, and I'm glad we're able to have these amazing people talk about their experiences in leadership. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
That's it. And we have it on video, so we'll be able to share it. Yeah.